just go ahead and make a few quick initial observations. Nothing to be concerned about, just the preliminary notes for starting the assessment. Oh, yeah. One moment, please. And, yes. Not to worry, just like I said, my initial thoughts and concerns. There's really no way I can sugarcoat that. How long did you say that you've known the patient for? Okay, sorry, just one more thing, if you don't mind. And you're sure about that, and some of these details are important. Okay, so to the best of your knowledge. And how long has the patient been in this particular state, if you will? Really? Now that is surprising. All right, and has there been any change, or have there been any changes to behavior? I notice your friend is quite still. Is this usual, normal behavior? Okay, well, even more surprising. Just a few more things. That's what I thought. Right, and try to think back to the most or the oldest memory that you have of your friend here. Have they always had this sort of demeanor, if you will, appearance? They have, okay. Well, I'll just shoot it straight. That's a bit peculiar. Now, I don't see a lot of patients like this, to put it delicately, so I'm going to run a few tests. Now, I know that you said your friend was struggling with a bit of a chronic headache. Now, you did list that as the only issue in your emergency call. You said the chronic headache was quite severe. Now, is that the only thing that concerned you, or maybe was a red flag when addressing any particular issues or ailments that your friend is experiencing? Really, that's the only thing that concerned you? Well, an astute friend you are. So, let me go ahead and just run a few additional tests, if that's all right with you. I insist. My medical expertise, well, really just causes me to try to go the extra mile, if you will, and assess all sorts of ailments. So it just should take a moment. The first thing that I'm going to do is just get establish a bit of a heart rate. I'm just going to use my stethoscope here. As you can hear, we will just place this against the chest or torso area of your friend and try to establish that baseline heart rate. This will just give us an idea if your friend's heart, or lack thereof, is beating as it should. It's often, in layman's term, an indicator of good health, to put it as simply as I can. So just bear with me, and I'm going to try to listen and determine the said health of your friend's heart. So I will just try to determine the best possible placement. So if you'll just bear with me here, it sometimes is a bit of a delicate procedure, especially on a patient in this condition. So just please be patient. Let me just ensure that I am making the proper assessment, and maybe, just maybe, we can get a healthy prognosis. Okay, I think I see exactly where we should begin, so alright, you can do this. Alright, and let me listen here. A few more, I think, will be necessary. Once again. Alright, so as I was afraid, did you notice that lack of obvious heartbeat, almost like a empty, cavernous void where the heartbeat should be? Right, I did too. So let me just make a few notes on that, if you don't mind. It's something that I think is, well, oftentimes important to note how well, if at all, a heart is beating. So we'll just put not applicable, if you don't mind. Alright, yes, multiple checks, and confidence high. Alright, so next up, let's try to just, if I can just, where did I put it? Ah, there it is. Just going to try to get a few, you see that light? Just a few pupil dilation test. This is another way to see if your friend here is operating at the appropriate capacity, brainwave-wise. Oftentimes, if there's been some separation of the cervical spinal cord or any other damage to the brain, which is common in subjects like this, oftentimes you will see a almost dead look in the eyes, a black, soulless void that indicates the absence of brain activity, aside from the most basic and, how should I put this, carnal instincts. Have you noticed any strange activity in the nocturnal hours, particularly after the sun is fully set, or even maybe in caves, cavernous regions, dark areas, undercrops or outcrops of stone ledges or dense wooded areas? Have you noticed an uptick in energy from your friend here in those situations? You have. All right, well, that's quite the surprise, if I do say so myself. Notice how I'm getting almost very little, if none at all, activity in those pupils. Yes. Oh, yes, that is surprising. Right, I thought the same thing. Yes, I would never have guessed that. But, of course, I'll try a few more times. I would hate to not be thorough in my observations of those around me. But if you do insist that you haven't noticed anything strange, then I guess this would be usual for you. Alright, so let me just make a few notes about the findings there. And also I would like to go ahead and make note of that activity. So the activity is, you have seen an uptick during the nocturnal hours or in dense sun dampened areas. Right? Yes, very surprising. Okay. Now, how is the activity or energy levels during the daylight hours or when exposed to sunlight? Little, if any at all. You don't say. Well, let me just go ahead and make a note of that as well. Oh yes, that's quite unusual. What did you say your name was? Right, okay. Oh, I just have a feeling that we will be making a return visit at some point. Right. Well, patients like this and people like you seem to coincide with accidents or injuries, things like that. You'll catch on sooner or later. Okay, so we've made a note of the non-existent heartbeat, the little to no variation in pupil sizes when exposed to the pen light, which, like I said, very unusual for a typical patient, but I've seen worse. Next, let's go ahead and address the primary reason for you calling me this evening, the chronic headaches. Of course, how could I forget? The most common reason for headaches in patients like this is usually buildup in the ears. See, the limited mobility in daylight hours oftentimes leads to a bit of neglect, if you will, and personal hygiene, the typical things that you would check, like your ears, which build up in that area, can cause a substantial headache. So if someone is, let's say, barely alive or classified in some other form or status altogether, those ears could become quite clogged, which could lead to quite chronic and egregious headaches. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to perform a slight check. I do have some clean attachments here. We would hate to be unsanitary, so we are just going to attach the attachment here to the tip. Just give me a moment to get it properly adhered. There we are. Now, this is just a simple pin light, so we're going to flip it on, and we're going to take a look inside those ears. We do have a small magnifying glass here on the other side, and this will just allow me to get a good look. So let's just take a look. Right, that is exactly as I suspected. Quite substantial buildup, almost as if the ears have not been cleaned in many years, which is uncommon for most patients, but quite common in a very particular classification of patients, if you understand my meaning. You don't? Well, that's all right. At some point you will understand the severity, if you will, of this condition. And just as I thought. So let's go ahead and remove some of that buildup. I do have with me a package of extra long Q-tips, which usually are perfect for ensuring that the ears are very poorly cleaned and that the debris is pushed further and further into the ear canal. But for this situation, I don't think it could hurt. So I'm just going to prepare and get a gentle and somewhat effective cleaning of your friends and our dear patients' ears. let me go ahead and just remove these cleaning swabs. And as you can see, we have the extra long sticks here, which allow us to get a good clean without getting too close to the patient or sustaining too much contact. Alright, and this one should do. So we will place the others to the side, and we are going to have a very gentle and as thorough as possible clean. So please just allow me. Nice and gentle and very thorough, ensuring that all the debris is taken care of one way or another, and continuing to clean. Let's go to the other side. Let's get a fresh Q-tip for this side and begin. Good. And another clean Q-tip. And again. Good. And once more, a clean, fresh swab. And let us clean. I think you're right. This should make your friend feel much better. Almost finished. All right, and let's go ahead and take a quick look, see how we have fared. Actually much better. Even better than I had hoped. Let's check that other side. And good, not great. Let's make a few notes of the results of the cleaning. So right here looks 95% clear of debris, and the left side was, I would say, about 75%, so still good. All right. Now, do you think that your friend would be in need of a saline rinse? Now, this will, I don't think, be covered by your... Right, I don't think it would be covered by your cubic healthcare, but if you would like to go ahead and go out of pocket, of course, in addition to the copay, then the saline rinse, I think, could maybe take that 75% debris clearance and move that up to maybe 95 to even 100. What do you think? You can take your time, think on it for just a bit. Not today. All right. Well, I can agree that it sometimes is necessary and sometimes, if ever, not necessary. So, not a bad decision. But I think that that's all we can really do to treat the headache. So let me just jot down a few final notes here, give you the prognosis. All right. Well, I'm going to indicate that the headache should clear up within, I would say, 2 to 3 days. So please call back if it worsens by any means. But I think that that pressure caused by those clogged ears is likely the culprit. Now, on to the other issues that we've discovered today, including the lack of a heartbeat, the deadpan and soulless eyes, as well as the seemingly absent brain activity. I would suggest that you keep your friend properly fed, try to avoid direct sunlight, and when I say try to avoid, I mean avoid at absolutely all possible costs, and make sure that it gets plenty of exercise in the evening hours. So it would be best if you adjust your schedule to living in an almost completely nocturnal lifestyle, and I would just, well, keep a respectful distance at most times, and if you've made it this far, then I'm sure that you are well aware of how to coexist with a friend like this. It looks as though that sun is almost completely down, so I think we should wrap up this appointment. If you are in need, or if the headache persists, please do call our subsidiary branch. We do have a chiropractor that's quite good at dealing with specialty cases, so please give him a call, and I think he could probably get the health of your friend to the next level. Let me just go ahead and write you a referral. I'll have that sent over right away. All right. Well, if there are not any other further questions, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We'll bill you. How about that? All right. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, and please